Light has been the main theme that Keyblade wielders have sought out and defended throughout the Kingdom Hearts story, and it's a theme that we felt had to be protected and preserved from the forces of darkness. But what happens when someone decides that light has to be the end-all be-all for the world? No compromise and no true balance. Welcome back everyone, this is your girl Empowered Muse, and today we're going to dive a bit deeper into the Master of Masters' potential endgame to end darkness once and for all. So we already know that the Master of Masters had quite a traumatic past before we even met him in Daybreak Town. The war against darkness had already taken his first home, and those he loved when he was younger. So by the time we met him in Daybreak Town, he had a very strong aversion to darkness. So much so that he devised multiple ways to stay ahead by knowing as much as possible about darkness in order to eliminate it. And so we first see this instance of the Master's calculations against darkness during Union Cross, where we learn that the Master not only had a hand in creating a data version of Daybreak Town as a meeting point for the Dandelions, but he also created and stored data of the new Union leaders. The Master even went so far as to use his apprentices, the Foretellers, to lock away the strongest of the 13 darknesses within them, and planning for the Union leaders to lock away 5 more of those darknesses, while carrying the reminder the entire time to not let sentimentality cloud judgment. The Master was quite calculated in his plans to eliminate these darknesses and acknowledged that his plans would take a very long time and would involve some sacrifices throughout. And because the Master is such a calculated individual, it's not too surprising that perhaps the Master designed and used Data Daybreak Town as sort of a testing ground for a potential new world. But of course, after likely foreseeing the events that took place in both the real Daybreak Town and the data version of Daybreak Town, the Master of Masters comes across what appears to be his version of an ideal world, a world where neither light nor darkness could be conceived. And with that, the Master disappears. Whether of his own accord or by some other outside force is unclear, but he essentially takes off, leaving Daybreak Town and the Union leaders to their fates while staying ahead of darkness. We see the Master again chronologically during Xehanort's lifetime, primarily in Kingdom Hearts Dark Road and parts of Xehanort's flashbacks in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. And I think that the Master deeming Xehanort as a singularity was quite interesting as it related to the next phases of his plan. When Xehanort meets the Master of Masters, he already showed some ambiguity on the concepts of light and darkness, and to the Master of Masters, this was likely his opportunity to kind of tease out what Xehanort really desired. And you can say that he probably even egged on Xehanort's jadedness against darkness or false light in people's hearts in their second visit after Xehanort returns from his tour. And so it could very well be the case that Xehanort being influenced by the Master and closely monitored by Luxu was yet another testing ground in the fight to drive out darkness. Specifically, Xehanort was a testing ground of using darkness within the realm of light as a tool to actually recreate the world. And while the English translation stated that his goal was to create a world pure and bright, the original Japanese sub stated that Xehanort was essentially creating a blank slate, an indication that his goal was neutrality as opposed to pure light. Perhaps this was in fact Xehanort's own goals and not necessarily the result of the Master of Masters' direct influence to him, but it did seem to fall in line with the Master's fascination with this new world where light nor darkness could be controlled. And so even though light actually prevailed in the most recent Keyblade War, it seems that the Master of Masters isn't done, and probably not by a long shot, but has the Master conducted enough tests for his endgame? If you remember the secret movie at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 Space Game, the last scene involved the Master of Masters standing on top of a building somewhere in Quadratum making a heart shape around the moon. So it's very likely that his next, perhaps even his final testing ground will take place in Quadratum. That is, the endgame for the Master of Masters, at least in the Lost Master arc, will be to have yet another epic battle against true darkness in the realm of Quadratum, which is a more neutral realm where neither light nor darkness can be controlled, unlike the previous Keyblade Wars of the past. But despite this battle to drive out darkness seeming to be for the greater good, the Master's plans and tests may come at a much larger cost than we realize. With the Master of Masters having such a traumatic past before, he really seems to reject the concept of care and camaraderie. And because of this, he's basically putting forth the ultimate calculations in this seemingly eternal battle with darkness, despite the costs involving those closer to him. So by now it's pretty clear that the Master didn't really have issues with basically sacrificing his apprentices and the Union leaders as vessels to hold and battle some of those darknesses. Again, even going so far to tell Luxu to not let sentimentality cloud their judgments. And with the Master holding data versions of the Union leaders, this likely indicates that even if something happened to the Union leaders in the process of his plans, like Strelitzia for example, data versions would be ready to be used to continue with the Master's overall plans. The Master even went so far as to orchestrate the Foretellers' distrust of each other to the point where an entire Keyblade War took place. The Master's calculations clearly involved not only using people as vessels, but even going so far as to manipulating their most base raw and negative emotions for the sake of carrying out his plans against darkness. And so this has kind of become a weird phenomenon where the Master of Masters is seeking to prevent further losses to darkness by sacrificing those around him in what seems to be for the greater good. The Master isn't really using light or the powers of light, at least not the light we're used to seeing in Kingdom Hearts. Rather, he's straight up using people as essentially tools and contingencies to drive out darkness once and for all. And while we can say that Xehanort kind of did something similar during his lifetime, Xehanort more so embraced darkness as a tool and had the ultimate goal of striking an even balance. The Master, on the other hand, very much seems to have the goal of fully banishing darkness in order for true light to fully rule. Which, if you fully look at the Master's actions and his overall desires, this has turned to quite an interesting juxtaposition, because while the Master of Masters has expressed his hatred and fear of darkness, he seems to have no problem at all expressing cynicism and being very calculated and even a bit manipulative towards others for the sake of defeating darkness. So you could basically say that the Master is very much operating out of fear as opposed to anger, for example. And we've actually seen another Keyblade Master of Light wielding his power in anger, that being Master Eraqus. But even Master Eraqus' actions had a stark contrast to what we're seeing with the Master of Masters, because while Eraqus also had a deep hatred of darkness, likely because of his ancestor, which I'm assuming is Brain, Eraqus' hard line was more so seeing light and using light as the ultimate tool to drive out darkness, as opposed to testing and using people and worlds like the Master of Masters. And I think this entire concept brings up an interesting question of how far is too far to drive out darkness for the sake of light. Should Keyblade wielders of light go so far for the sake of the greater good, even at the cost of people or even worlds around them? Because remember, if it is the case that the Master of Masters wants to use Quadratum as a neutral battleground, won't that run the risk of Quadratum being destroyed or severely damaged? We already saw that Xehanort went to extreme lengths for the sake of summoning Kingdom Hearts in order to purge the world for the sake of a blank slate. So with the Master of Masters essentially using his advantages of time and foresight, there runs an even greater chance that whoever is in his path will become nothing more than a tool to eliminate darkness, whether they know it or not. And so I think going forward in this next arc, it'll really be interesting for our protagonist to dig deep on whether light should really prevail at any and all costs. While there was talk of the possibility of light being tyrannical in the previous saga, we might actually be heading in that direction in the Lost Master arc. Especially if the Master of Masters is doing everything possible to eliminate darkness once and for all. But I want to hear from you, so let me know your thoughts on the Master of Masters and his endgame in the comments below. If you want to explore some more Kingdom Hearts theories, I'll be linking another Kingdom Hearts theory video here in the end screen. And as always, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video and want to watch more Kingdom Hearts content. And if there's anyone who may have questions about what to expect for the upcoming Kingdom Hearts games, be sure to share this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.